Okay, so let's kind of go back and recap what we've done so far with Pong. So this is the basic setup, the stuff that you guys do not really need to touch, and when you do need to kind of alter the code, I'll tell you how to add it. But this stuff we can ignore. I'm gonna put this at the bottom so we don't have it. So let's kind of start with the paint method. Remember that the paint method handles the drawing, and some of the functions you will need will be fill oval, and that takes in uh, the x, the y, and then the width and the height. And so these are actually all ints. So the parameters are all integers. There's also fill rectangle, same thing, take in the x, y, and then width and the height. So for both fill rect and fill oval, x and y for these functions is actually the top left point. For oval, you want to imagine a rectangle around the oval, and the top left of the rectangle is x and y. So right here, right now, the only thing that's happening is that an oval is being drawn at position 0, 0, with a width of 50 and a height of 50. So when I click play here, that's what it does, right? So 0, 0, and then from there, the width is 50, the height is 50. Now, if we move that to a different y location, so let's say we move it at 100, 100, that ball is then translated, right? So down 100 in y, and then over 100 in x. So in Java, as you go down the screen, so the origin here is here at 0, 0, and then as you go down, y increases. As you go to the right, x increases. And so again, this is not where y equals 0 is, like a Cartesian coordinate, right? Y is equal to 0 over here, and then it goes more positive as you go down. And so now we want to think of variables that define our ball. So variables that define the Pong ball. One of those would be position, right? Position variables. We're going to break it down to x and y. So we're going to go int bx, int by is equal to 0, ball x and y position variables. And then we're going to say that the ball will also have some sort of width. Int bw equals to 50, ball width and height. Since it's a circle, of course, we know that it's the same for the height. And then finally, movement variables, we'll call them bvx. Int bvx equals to 4, and int bvy is equal to 3. So these variables are going to be for movement velocity. So velocities in the x and y direction, right? So that means that this is moving to the right faster than it is moving down. So if the ball is moving at this velocity in these components, it would be going that way, like that. So now that we have defined our variables, we should probably use these. In our old paint, for example, instead of hard coding the numbers here, right? If you hard code the numbers, you can't really make the program change them later because you hard coded those numbers. Now, if we refer to variables, then the variables may change, which we will make them change later. So here it's going to be bx, by, and then the width. So now it's going to be drawing an oval at this point, x and y. So that's at 0, 0, and then with this size. So when we click play, nothing's going to change because it did that before. If you want to play around with how draw oval works or fill oval works, practice drawing, you can use a couple more fill ovals or something. Let's say 200, 200, 30, 30. If I click play, where is that going to get drawn? It's over here. If I do, instead of fill oval, g.draw oval, 200, 400, 50 by 50. So then that's drawn over here, right? So x 200, y is equal to 400, and it's 50 by 50, so it's the same size as this one. So there you have it. As you can see, fill oval will draw the circle and then fill it in, while draw oval will just draw the outline. Depending on your color scheme, you can do whatever you want to. If you want to change the color, you just use this method called g.setColor. So then I can go color.blue. And then maybe later I'm like, oh, I want to change my color. If you want to change a color, then you want to do it right. Right before you draw one of the commands. So one of the drawing commands would be like fill oval and draw oval. So g.setColor, color.red. So now when I do it, right? So every time you call set color, it's going to use that color until you change it. So here I changed it to blue and then it draws this. I changed it to red and then it draws these two in red. Because again, I didn't change the color back anywhere here. After this line, everything is going to be drawn in red. There's also draw rect and fill rect. Draw rect and fill rect. They behave exactly like fill oval and draw oval, but we'll show you. Fill rect, so I don't know, 300 by 300, and we're gonna do 20 by 55. There it is, right? So I just wanted to show you the different functions that you can use. We're gonna erase them now, or I'm gonna comment them out, so that we're only focusing on what we need to do for now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and update. We're going to add a comment here. This is going to be the function that's called 60 times per second. So this and paint are called 60 times per second. Update the variables here to add motion. So again, this is going to be called 60 times per second. For example, if 60 times per second, we say that, hey, why don't we add 1 to bx, add 1 to ball's x position. So if we do that each time, as you can see, now it's moving to the right. Again, it's because of the fact that update is getting called and the position of the ball's x is being updated, which is then redrawn at that new position. If we do the same thing for y, it will now move across to the right and then also down, so diagonally. But instead of +1, right, which instead of adding a constant value or a number, we're going to refer back to our variables bvx. Bvx is velocity in the x direction, so it only makes sense that that velocity is going to be affecting the positions, the x position of the ball. And then same thing here, bvy. So ball velocity in the x alters or changes x position over time. Same thing here, ball's velocity in y changes y position, changes its y position over time. It's kind of like saying if you had a velocity going south, then you would be moving south. This is what we're saying here. So there you go, right? So now we're going to introduce the idea of an if statement. So an if statement is also known as conditional statement in Java, and it looks like this. So every single time you write an if statement, you should have the if keyword followed by the parentheses and then the body of the code. stuff that runs if condition is true. So an if statement operates on a true and false statement. Something like if by is greater than 100. So let's say the ball passes that. We're going to say b width times equals 2. So what you're going to see is it should be acting very weird after it passes 100, right? So there it is. It kind of increases in size infinitely. But really what we want to do is have it bounce. So once it reaches here, I'm going to say it bounces. So in order to make it bounce, you can change the velocity in the y and make it opposite itself. So now what we should find is after it hits that, it alters y. But instead of 100, your job is to change it to a value such that it looks like it's bouncing off of here. And then you can add additional ones. So for example, you can check to see if it passes x equals some value. I'm going to change this to something bigger. 600. Then you can do the same thing and say, hey, bounce off the side. So passes here, it bounces, and then it hits another wall there. So this idea of having walls, right? This is saying again, if by ball's y position passes 400, reverse the direction of velocity in the y direction. Here this says if bx passes 600, reverse x velocity.
Hey, you can't make your own number of questions on GradeCam. It's so stupid.
It's like Scantron. So anyways, on your own, you should be able to do the other 4 edges, which would be, of course, it shouldn't be 400, it should be 600. You want to make it look like it's bouncing off of the edge of the frame. So look for the value here, the value there, and then of course you want to check to see if it passes 0 here. Remember, this is y is equal to 0. And then on to the left, that's x is equal to 0. So that's where we kind of got to for the first part of the Pong program. How do I stop recording is the question. Actually, what? Okay, why is OBS being weird?